I sat frozen, on the cold, hard chair in the middle of the courtroom, my hands clenched tight beneath the glossy oak table. Across from me, Edward leaned back casually, so relaxed I wanted to rip that smug. Look, straight off his face. 11 years of marriage, 2 children, a home I held together with everything I had. And now it was ending in a courtroom where the man who once held my hand at our wedding was staring at me like I was the enemy. I want everything I ever bought her back, Edward said. His voice dripped with arrogance. Chilling the air in the room. And the gifts I gave the kids, too. Anything worth over $60, I want it returned. I felt my chest tighten, like something had reached inside and squeezed. Not a punch with fists, just words. Cold, calculated words I couldn't believe. He was actually putting our children's belongings on the table, like they were part of a clearance sale for our marriage. My lawyer, Courtney, leaned in and whispered, "Genesis, don't react. He's trying to provoke you." I nodded, though my throat was dry as sandpaper. Next to Edward sat her, Kelsey, blonde curls, bright red lipstick, the permanent expression of a woman who believed she had won something. She gave a faint smile when Edward glanced at me, like they were sharing a private moment of triumph over my collapse. Right there, in front of the law, I glanced at the empty chairs beside me. My kids weren't here today. I didn't want them to see this. Lily was only 7, still sleeping with the stuffed bear. Edward bought her on a beach trip 3 years ago. Noah was 12, always trying to act tough. But I knew he cried the entire night after Edward left. And now, the father who once hoisted them onto his shoulders was coldly demanding, back the telescope he gave Noah for his birthday. The judge's gavel came down. The court recognizes the divorce. Custody is granted to Mrs. Genesis Carter. Mr. Edward Carter will pay child support as required by law. Regarding the matter of gift returns, if no agreement is reached privately, parties may pursue separate civil action. Edward curled his lip. Not a smile. Contempt. We'll proceed, he said, without a second of hesitation. I want everything back. She's nothing to me anymore. Those things belong where they came from. Courtney let out a short, disbelieving breath. Lord, he sounds like a pawnshop clerk. I couldn't laugh. I could only feel the kind of pain that hollows you out from the inside, not because of designer handbags or diamond necklaces, because I had once loved this man enough to give up my career, to stay home, to raise our children so he could shine. And now he stood there reclaiming everything, like I was nothing but a temporary storage unit. He was finally clearing out. I took a deep breath. I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't break. If he wanted all of it back so badly, fine. He could have every single thing. But he would never get back the one thing of real value I once gave him, my trust. On the other side of the table, Kelsey leaned over and whispered something into Edward's ear. He nodded. They laughed together. I turned away. I didn't need to witness another second. But inside me, something stirred, not hatred, something quieter, and far more dangerous, resolve. If they thought I'd fall apart after this, they had never truly known who I was. The next morning, I woke to complete silence. The house, once filled with children's laughter, and the smell of cinnamon waffles, now felt hollow. I walked to the kitchen, turned on the faucet. My hands trembled, not from cold, from the kind of chill that lingers after your dignity has been stripped in front of strangers. I looked around at our things, each one tied to a memory I was no longer sure I wanted to keep. The designer wallet Edward gave me for my 30th birthday. The red heels, he once said, made me look like I stepped out of a magazine. The painting we bought together in Savannah on a rare family trip when the kids were small and we still laughed at the same things. And now, according to him, all of it belonged to him. Even Noah's telescope, even Lily's music box. I had spent the whole night thinking. Part of me wanted to fight, to drag Edward back into court until he was drained. But then I thought of Lily's eyes the day she asked me, "Does Dad still love us?" And I knew. I needed to protect something more important than pride, my children's peace. So, I decided to return it all, not because Edward deserved it, but because I refused to carry a single thing that connected me to someone who treated betrayal like a privilege. I didn't need those objects to remind me I was once his wife. I had Lily and Noah. Living proof of everything I gave from the heart. I began packing at noon, each item placed into boxes, like part of a ritual. I wrapped the wallet in tissue paper, boxed the shoes separately, removed every painting from the walls, but I paused. At Noah's room, the telescope still sat by the window, right where we used to sit for hours together, watching the sky, until Noah once whispered to me, "Mom, I'll find a planet and name it after you." I touched the metal, cold as stone. It squeezed my heart. Still, I wrapped it up. Because if I didn't, Edward would use it as an excuse to come back, to knock on our door again, to torment me with more demands. No, I wanted a clean break. No strings, no returns. I wrote up a full inventory, item by item, condition, estimated value, and the occasion it was received. It stretched nearly 3 pages. I signed the bottom like it was a silent contract with myself. This would be the last time I bent for that man. That evening, after the kids were asleep, I called Edward. He picked up on the second ring, still smug. Still certain the world owed him something. "I've packed everything," I said, keeping my voice flat and clean. "A delivery truck will bring it to your address tomorrow morning. The detailed inventory is in the first box." A pause. Then a laugh. "Thought you'd put up a fight. Finally learned your place, huh?" I took one slow breath. "No, Edward. I just don't have time to waste on you anymore." I hung up before he could speak again. My heart raced, but not from fear, from relief. The relief of finally pulling out a splinter that had been buried deep for years. The next morning, the delivery truck arrived. 2 men helped load the boxes in silence. I stood in the doorway, watching them carry out the last pieces of a life I was done, pretending was real. When the truck pulled away, I went back inside, closed the door, and exhaled. I thought it was over. But that night, while I was folding laundry in Noah's room, he walked in, eyes red. Mom, did you give Dad the telescope?" I clenched the shirt in my hands. "Yes, baby." He didn't answer right away. He just sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. Dad said he'd only borrow it for a few days. We were supposed to watch the meteor shower together this summer. I set down the laundry. I knelt beside him, held him close. "I'm sorry, Noah. I know you're upset. I am too. But we'll get a new one, a better one. And this summer you and I will watch every meteor together. Just us." Noah nodded, his voice steadier than his eyes. "I believe you, Mom." I looked at him, and in that moment, I knew I had made the right choice. I may have lost every object tied to a broken marriage, but I still held the things no court order could ever touch, my children's love, and the dignity no man could strip away. The next day, Kelsey's name flashed on my phone screen, like a slap. The woman who had walked into my marriage was now calling, like we might someday laugh about it together. I stared at the screen. I didn't pick up. Didn't flinch. Just let it ring until it stopped. 3 minutes later, a text appeared. "Just making sure you pack the right valuables." Edward's really concerned something might have been left out. I let out a short, dry laugh. Not because it was funny, because very few people could be that shameless. But I had already anticipated this. Every gift Edward demanded back, I didn't just box it. I labeled it, listed its estimated value, the date received, the occasion. Every word on those pages was a quiet document, cutting straight through the story Edward was trying to sell, the pearl necklace. A birthday gift from when I was pregnant with Lily, valued at approximately $1,500. Now wrapped carefully in a velvet box, with a note tucked inside. "You gave me this on the night you said, 'You're the only one who makes me want to grow up.'" The red heels. Anniversary gift. Year 3. Note, "You said these made me look like the woman you always dreamed of. I'm returning the shoes. But I'm keeping the woman you couldn't handle." The painting from Savannah. Note, "You bought this because Lily pointed at it and said she wanted us to have something beautiful on our wall. She was 4. She remembered, you didn't." Each note was not an accusation. It was a mirror, a precise, unflinching mirror. Placed in a box, delivered to his door, but at the very bottom of that box I placed something different. Something he never asked for, something he never even knew I had saved. A smaller box, old and plain. Inside, Noah's crayon drawings from when he was 5, Lily's finger-painted cards from kindergarten, a family photo from the beach trip, the one where Lily had ice cream on her nose and Edward was laughing, in a way I hadn't seen in years. A handwritten note from Noah that said, "Daddy, you are my hero. Beacus, you are strong and funny. I love you 1000. And beneath everything else, a sealed cream envelope labeled Child Expenses 2020 to 2024, not including shared household costs, and my own letter. 1 page. No return address. Edward, you can take everything. The necklace, the watch, the handbags, even the gifts you claimed were for the kids. But there are 3 things you cannot take, because you never gave them in the first place. Love, presence, time. You never stayed up until 3 in the morning when Noah had a fever. You never sat with Lily when children teased her at school and she came home with tear-stained cheeks. You never left work early to watch her dance recital. You never asked Noah what subject he was struggling with. I did all of that. Not out of obligation, out of love. Love is not measured in the price tag of a gift. It is measured in presence. And you, Edward, you were never there. You want everything back, as if returning objects could rewind the years you spent looking away. But what the children and I carry, those are not things you can box up. They are memories you chose not to be part of. Genesis. The truck delivered the boxes the following afternoon. Edward was home. He opened the door to the deliveryman himself. He signed without expression, carried the first box inside, and set it on the dining table. He expected to find the wallet, the shoes, the painting. He found those, but then he found the notes. He read the first one slowly, then the second. By the third, his jaw was tight. Not with anger, with something that had no clean name. Then he reached the smaller box at the bottom. He pulled it open, and the crayon drawings spilled out first. Noah's handwriting, Lily's painted handprints, the beach photo, and the note. Daddy, you are my hero, Beacus you are strong, and funny. Edward sat down on the floor, not because his legs gave out. Because everything else did. Kelsey came in from the kitchen, glass in hand. She glanced at the boxes, then at him. Finally got your stuff back. Feel better? He didn't answer. She stepped closer, looked down at the drawings. Don't tell me you're going to sit there, crying over crayon scribbles. He looked up at her. For the first time, really looked. Do you know, what subject Noah loves most in school? She shrugged. How would I know? Do you know what Lily's dancing to at her recital this year? Edward, I'm not their mom. Do you even know their birthdays? Kelsey set her glass down. Her voice sharpened. I didn't sign up to be a replacement mother. That wasn't the deal. No, he said quietly. You showed up when things were easy. Genesis showed up when everything was falling apart. And she was the one who built it back. Kelsey's face went cold. So what? You want to crawl back to her? You think she'll just open her arms after everything? No, Edward said. His voice was flat, exhausted. I don't expect that, and I don't deserve it. But at the very least, I can try to be the father Noah and Lily deserve. He opened the cream envelope. His hands were not steady. Inside was a printed breakdown. Year by year, category by category, Noah's school fees, Lily's dance classes, uniforms, books, medicine, birthday gifts, and summer camps. Camping gear for Noah's class trip. Every line, itemized, every amount, tracked. The total at the bottom, over, $27,000. 4 years. Paid quietly, never mentioned, never asked to be recognized. Edward read every line, then he set the papers down on the floor, beside the drawings. Kelsey watched him. She's manipulating you. She said, her voice tight. Those receipts, those little notes, she's guilt-tripping you. That's all this is. Edward picked up Lily's card, the one with the painted handprints. Her tiny fingers spread open like a star. He stared at it for a long time. When was the last time you asked me how Noah was doing? Kelsey didn't answer. When was the last time you asked about Lily? Silence. Have you ever once asked if the kids were okay? And her jaw tightened. I told you, I'm not their mother. No, he said softly, but you're the reason I stopped acting like their father. Kelsey picked up her bag, left her key on the counter, and walked out without another word, and Edward sat alone on the floor of a quiet apartment, surrounded by everything he had demanded back. Holding the only things that had ever truly mattered. That night, he did not go to a bar. He did not pour a drink. He sat down at his desk, opened a notebook, and began to write 2 letters, one to Noah, one to Lily. Not long, not dramatic, just words that were years overdue. 2 weeks later, I received an email. The subject line was simple. Thank you, and I'm sorry. I read it slowly. Genesis. I received the box. What you sent wasn't material. It was a mirror. One that showed me the father and husband I failed to be. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to try to be present for Noah and Lily, if you'll allow it, Edward. I sat with it for a long time. The old part of me, the part that had spent 11 years trying to fix what couldn't be fixed, wanted to feel something clean about this. Relief, maybe, or vindication. But I didn't feel either of those things. I just felt still, the way you feel when a storm finally passes and the air is quiet again. I typed back 1 line. You can reach out to them through the lawyer's co-parenting plan. That's the only channel I'll respond to regarding this. I hit send. No trembling. No second guessing. 2 months after that, something happened that nobody expected. Oh, Kelsey came back. Not for Edward. She showed up at the apartment with a newborn baby and a suitcase. This is your child, she said, her eyes glistening, her voice already calculating. Edward stood at the door. He had no anger left, no shock, just a slow, spreading emptiness. She was gone before nightfall. Left the baby, left no instructions. Edward lost his job within weeks, missed too many days, fell behind on rent, fell behind on everything. One evening, neighbors called the police after hearing shouting from his unit. Kelsey had returned, not out of love, but out of demands. By the time the dust settled, he had nothing left of what he thought he had won. I heard about it 2 days later, from a lawyer acquaintance who worked in the county courthouse. She called me, voice careful. Genesis, I don't know if you plan to intervene. But Edward, he's not the man you once knew. He's falling apart. I looked out the window. Lily was jumping rope in the yard, counting out loud. Inside, Noah was hunched over a new robot model. I didn't feel satisfaction. Not exactly. I just felt the weight of something finally balancing. That night, I typed a single message and sent it. I heard what happened. If you're truly ready to be present for Noah and Lily, not for me, not to make yourself feel better, I'll allow supervised visits. If not, please don't contact me again. I set the phone down, just as Lily ran inside, beaming. Mom, I jumped to 100. Wah, I pulled her close, pressed my face into her hair, and for the first time in a long while, I felt completely at peace. I don't remember exactly when I started to fall. Maybe it was after that call with the lawyer. Or maybe it was the night Noah came into my room at nearly midnight and whispered, Mom, if Dad isn't a good person anymore, am I still supposed to love him? I couldn't answer right away. That question didn't cut like a knife. It twisted somewhere deeper, where I had hidden all the cracks. I began waking up later. Meals became cold toast and stale coffee. Lily kept dancing. Noah kept excelling. But I walked through my days like I was moving through thick smoke, knowing I needed to move forward, unable to find the direction. One afternoon, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror for a long time. My cheeks had hollowed. The shadows under my eyes were dark enough to see, without looking for them. That wasn't me. That wasn't the woman who had held a family together through every storm. I called Dr. Elaine, the therapist who had helped me through the divorce. She didn't ask many questions. She just said one sentence. Genesis, you've been strong for too long, but you don't have to be strong alone. I checked into a 10-day inpatient treatment program. It was the hardest stretch I had ever endured. Not because I missed my kids, because for the first time in years I faced myself with no mask, no performance, no role to play. I wrote in a journal every day, scribbled uneven sketches on paper, sometimes just shapes and circles, sometimes Lily's hands mid-dance, or Noah's face tilted sideways as he read. On the last day, the doctor walked me into the garden. The sun was low and warm. She said, "The hardest prison to leave is the one you've built to protect yourself." I didn't respond, but I understood every word. I came home lighter, not repaired, not yet, but lighter. Over the following months, something shifted. I stopped filling the hours with obligation. I started filling them with something I had abandoned long before Edward ever left. Art. I had painted in college, had sold 3 small pieces at a campus show, and felt something I couldn't name back then. A sense of ownership over my own voice. I found a studio space in a local artist co-op, rented it with careful savings, started painting again, hesitantly at first, like relearning a language I had stopped speaking, but gradually, the brushstrokes came back, and with them, something I had quietly buried for 11 years. My own language, my own story, told on my own terms. I drove Noah to robotics every Tuesday. I sat front row at every one of Lily's ballet practices, but instead of rushing home after, to prepare dinner for a man who always came home late, I drove to the studio. Stayed until the light ran out, painted until my hands ached, called it my freedom corner. Inside those walls, I wasn't Edward's ex-wife. I wasn't anyone's cautionary tale. I was Genesis Carter, the woman who rose from ashes, one stroke at a time. 18 months after the courtroom, I received a call. The city's Museum of Modern Art, they had seen pieces from a group show I'd participated in. They wanted to host a solo exhibition. I sat in my kitchen, holding the phone, long after the call ended, not from disbelief, from the quiet recognition of something I had once been told would never happen for me. I named the collection Resurgence. Every painting marked a chapter, from shattered to still, from the darkest night to a slow and patient light. The centerpiece hung on the largest wall of the gallery, a painting I had titled, No Turning Back, an abstract image of a woman stepping through a burning doorway, holding nothing but a paintbrush. Opening night was packed. I wore a simple black dress, hair pulled back, clean, lips a soft, understated red. People who had once passed me without a glance at Edward's events now stopped to shake my hand, ask about my inspiration, asked to be added to a waiting list. A collector from Seattle offered to buy the entire series at a price, while I had never imagined attaching to anything I created. I was speaking with an art journalist when Monica, my gallery assistant, came to my side. Her voice was low. "Genesis, there's a man near the entrance. He's been standing in front of No Turning Back for a long time. I thought you should know." I set down my glass. I already knew before I turned around. Edward stood near the entrance, thinner than I remembered, hair streaked with gray, wearing a plain white shirt and gray slacks. Simple, out of place in a room full of color. He held nothing. Just 2 empty hands and a quiet gaze fixed on the painting. I walked toward him. Not from obligation, not from unfinished feelings, from the certainty of someone who no longer had anything to fear. He heard my footsteps and turned. When he saw me, something shifted in his face. Not relief, not hope, just recognition, the kind that comes too late. "You really stepped out of the fire," he said. His voice was low, the voice of someone who had learned to speak softly, after spending too long being too loud. I nodded. And I didn't get burned. He looked at the painting again. "I just wanted to see you," he said, after a long pause. "To know that you were okay." I held his gaze. "I am. A beat. And the best part is, I didn't need you to get here." He gave a faint, sad smile. Not the smile of a man who still thought he could win. The smile of a man who finally understood what he had let go. "I understand," he said. I turned to leave, then paused. "Edward." He looked at me. "Do right by Noah and Lily. Not for me, for you. That's all I ask." He nodded. Said nothing else. I walked back into the gallery, my heels steady on the floor, the noise of the room coming back up around me. Monica met me halfway. "Are you okay?" I smiled. Never better. That night, I came home to find Noah reading at the kitchen table, and Lily, stretched out on the sofa under her favorite blanket. I sat between them, pulled them both close. Lily looked up at me, sleepy-eyed. "Mom, is it true?" People are strongest when they stop running? I pulled her closer, kissed her forehead. No, sweetheart. People are strongest when they realize they don't need anyone's permission to be themselves. She closed her eyes. Noah turned a page. The house was quiet. The good kind of quiet, the kind that belongs to you. 6 months later, I was invited to speak at a women's arts forum on rebuilding after hardship. I stood on stage in front of hundreds of people, and I didn't start with theory. I didn't start with a quote. I started with the truth. I was once the woman who packed her daughter's music box into a box and mailed it back to her ex-husband. Because a court order said anything worth more than $60 was his. The room went still. Today, I'm standing in front of artists, entrepreneurs, and survivors. Not because I was lucky, because I chose not to stop. I told them about the night Noah asked if he was still supposed to love his father. About the morning Lily told me I was the bravest person she knew. About the night I collapsed on the bathroom floor, unable to breathe. And about the morning I picked up a brush with trembling hands and painted anyway. Someone once told me I would be nothing without him. I let the silence breathe. They were partly right. Another pause. Because without him, I finally became me. The applause was not thunderous. It was steady, like rain, like the sound of something real. My story is not a tragedy. It is a resurrection. From a betrayed wife. From a woman who packed her children's memories into boxes. 'Cause a man with a lawyer, told her to. From the woman who once asked herself, every single morning, if the pain was worth naming. I rose from that, one day at a time, one brushstroke at a time, one choice at a time. I no longer live to make anyone comfortable. I no longer fold myself into shapes that leave no room for me. I live to raise 2 children who know what dignity looks like, who know that love is not measured in price tags, who know that a woman can be stripped of everything material and still walk out of a courtroom with the most valuable thing in the room, her own sense of who she is. Edward wanted everything back. He got it, but what he sent back to me with those boxes, whether he knew it or not, was something I had been searching for without knowing its name. Permission. Permission to stop carrying a life that was never really mine. Permission to begin again. And this time, build something that no one could put a price on. No one can take what you build from inside yourself. Not a lawyer, not a courtroom, not a man who mistakes cruelty for power. That is the thing Edward never understood. He walked into that courtroom believing he could reduce me to a list of objects. He walked out holding crayon drawings, and I walked out holding everything else. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and follow for more stories about the quiet wars people fight behind closed doors.